My girlfriend tried to break up with me, but I didn't let her. My girlfriend Kinsella and I were that couple that everyone was jealous of. Our biggest fights consisted of who loved each other more, and I loved her with my whole heart. So when she surprised me with coming over one night, I picked her up and twirled her around as soon as she was in the doorway. But instead of hugging me back like always, she was completely rigid. "We need to talk," she said in a serious tone I'd never heard before. I carried her over to the couch and sat beside her. She wouldn't look at me. She just stared at her hands and said, "I think we should break up." "Why?" I asked playfully. "Is my D too big for you?" She looked at me with tears in her eyes, and I knew then that this was serious. After a long stretch of silence, she said, "It's just not right anymore. You have to give me a real answer, baby." Out of nowhere, she blurted out the words, "I cheated on you." I laughed out loud, not because it was funny, but because Kinsella's ears always turn red when she lies, and this was no different. "Baby, I'm sorry, but I don't believe you." She crossed her arms and frowned and tried harder to sell the lie. "Well, it's the truth. I met someone in my college course. I found him really attractive when I first saw him, but obviously I avoided him because I wanted to be loyal to you. But then he started rizzing me up and sitting beside me, and I couldn't help it. We kissed. The thing was, I knew her entire course. It was 12 women and one gay guy who had a literal boyfriend. When I pointed this out, she just whispered, "I'm sorry," and walked out. Within an hour, she had blocked me on everything. All my calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. She removed me on every single platform we'd ever connected on. None of this made any sense. Something was very wrong, and I refused to accept that this was real. The next morning, I drove straight to the coffee shop where her best friend worked. I needed answers. When her best friend saw me walk in, her face went completely pale like she'd seen a ghost. I asked her what was going on with Kinsella, and she immediately started shaking her head. "Just download Tinder and move on, bro. You're acting mad weird, stalking her and stuff." She tried to dismiss me in the same way Kinsella had, but I wasn't taking it, so I pushed harder for answers. "Listen, we both know Kinsella would never cheat, so why don't you tell me what's really going on?" Suddenly, her best friend burst into tears. "I promised Kinsella I wouldn't tell anyone. Please, just get out." From outside the coffee shop, I tried calling Kinsella's mom from a public phone box, so she wouldn't know it was me. When she picked up and realized it was me, her voice cracked immediately. "Sweetie, you were the best thing that ever happened to her. Please remember that, and please get over it." "Remember that? Why would I need to remember that? Why can't we just be together?" Beep. Her mom had already hung up. I pinched the bridge of my nose. What the hell was going on? I texted my boys, asking if they knew anything about this. Only my best friend responded, "I'll come over when my shift is over, bro, and we can talk about it. Everything will be okay. Trust." I sighed with relief. Someone would finally tell me what the freak was going on. At 8 p.m., I welcomed my best friend into my apartment. He sat on my couch and cracked open a Corona beer. I expected him to be blunt with me, but no, he said the same stuff as everyone else. "Dude, you gotta move on. Just forget about her." I snapped at him. "How can I forget about her?" I was screaming now. He looked away from me and said something that made my blood run cold. He said, "Because maybe she needs you to move on." I asked him what that meant, and he wouldn't answer either. Just got up and left. Everyone knew something I didn't. I couldn't take it anymore. I still had the key to her apartment, so I drove over there that night. She wasn't home, but I let myself in anyway. I just needed something, anything, that would explain why the love of my life had thrown everything away. That's when I saw papers sitting on her kitchen counter. My hands were shaking with nervousness as I picked them up. They were medical documents, diagnosis letters. The more I read, the more things made sense in the worst way possible. She wasn't cheating on me. She had terminal lung cancer, 6 months left to live, and she had made up that ridiculous lie because she wanted me to hate her. She wanted me to move on before she was even gone. She loved me so much that she wanted my last memory of her to be anger instead of grief. I knew exactly where she would be, the lake where we had our first date. I drove there in silence with tears streaming down my face the entire way. When I got there, she was sitting alone on our bench. I sat down next to her and whispered, "Why didn't you just tell me?" She didn't look at me, but I heard her whisper, "You weren't supposed to find out." I told her, "You don't get to decide how I love you." I held her while she cried, and I cried too, and I stayed by her side until her last breath. "I'll always love you, Kinsella. Rest in peace."